today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
Why are you going to fail? You've already overcome every single obstacle, which was completing elementary, completing high school. Everyone always told you couldn't do it, but you can do it. Just believe in yourself. And every time I would come home, I remember from day one, it's like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. You're just going to do it. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to do it. It's just repetitiveness, but it's easier said than done.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Angelica Goncalves. Angelica is an adult who's lived with dyslexia all her life. She was diagnosed at the age of 6. Growing up, people told her she would never succeed or achieve her goals, but with the support of her parents and constant determination, she proved those predictions wrong. With her podcast called A Little Bit of Everything with Me, Angelica is showing others with learning disabilities that they can achieve their goals too. Angelica, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you, Caroline, for having me here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you and listen to your story because you really have an amazing story of overcoming big obstacles. So to start out from the beginning, how did you first realize that you had a learning disability?
Well, it started off when I was entering grade 1, the time of your life where you are finishing off playing in the sandbox and learning colors and numbers to kind of really starting to put sentences together. You're reading out loud. You have small, short little books that were probably like 20 pages with 3 chapters. You're learning about math and you're learning how to add bigger numbers, et cetera, et cetera. And I started, and it's funny because it seems like I remember this like it just happened yesterday. It feels like it's a traumatic memory, but really it isn't. But it's been stuck to me where I was told to speak out in front of the class because we were reading our books and I was asked to read out loud. So when I started to read, first of all, I was shy. I say that I was because lately I've been overcoming a lot of obstacles to kind of get out of my comfort zone. I was very shy, very nervous. And I couldn't even read the 3 simple words that I had to pronounce. I was very nervous. I was just, you hear all these kids before you reading sentences and putting the words together. But when it came to my turn, I was just like, I kind of just broke down. I just kept my mouth shut because I just didn't know. Like I would know the word the, but I wouldn't know what were the other words after. When it came to questions said in the class, like, there's always that open discussion for kids. Like, well, what did we just read? Was person A or was it person B? Like, they would ask us questions and I would never get the answer. Because sometimes when you're sitting, even as an adult, when you're taking night school, you're kind of just like, okay, yeah, it's answer A or B, C, whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, I wasn't even processing anything. I'm just like, what are these people talking about? It was just like, it was in a different world. I started to kind of rethink things over. I never put my hand up because I was really shy. I was really embarrassed. I didn't want to be that person of like, oh my gosh, I got the answer wrong. And then people are going to make fun of me. Say people with their kids are going to make fun of me. But, I just felt like there was something that I couldn't do what other kids could do. And when it came to math and science and quizzes and spelling, I couldn't do any of it. Like you would ask me to spell the easiest 4-letter word like ball, tall, cat. It would be natural to me. But when we came to learning bigger words like entrance, door opening altogether, I couldn't. So I would come home with grades that were not the norm for a kid at that age. So over time, and thank goodness to my teacher, she noticed there was something wrong because comparing to the other kids, then you got gifted kids too. She knew there was something different about me. And she pointed it out to my mom because my mom obviously told me after when I was older, said that she realized that you were a bit behind. You were developing. It's like you knew what to say when it was face to face to her. But then she noticed that when it was in a group, you get very nervous, you break down. But then also when you're one-on-one with her, then some of the words you couldn't pronounce, like you weren't up to par to the rest of the kids.
Oh, I see. So it sounds like your teacher did pick up on this at a relatively early time in your schooling. And then this was pretty early on. I guess you mentioned like sort of right after you're playing in the sandbox. So like, kindergarten, first grade, I guess one of the earliest times in school. What happened from there? Were there like special types of schooling or types of treatments or skill sets that they would sort of supplement your learning with? Or like what happened from there once your teacher talked to your mom and said, I think she's not developing in reading and other areas the same pace as other kids?
So the school board, so it went addressed it to the principal and other, I guess you can say student teachers at the time. My mom was telling me and other teachers were kind of like, okay, well, we should send her to a specialist, get her checked out, and then we'll go to the school board and see what they can do because they weren't sure. They didn't know if it was social anxiety. Wasn't sure if it's ADHD. They didn't know if it was like everything that you can think of that could be a disability was they were trying to pinpoint. Maybe she's not hearing right. Maybe she's, maybe there is something wrong with her hearing, or maybe it's a speech thing. Like they listed the whole thing. So my mom was telling me that throughout the 6 months, it was very like, okay, so we have to go to one specialist. We have to get your ears checked. We had to get speech test done. There was something in your brain. So we had to get tests done on that. We had to pretty much every single thing I had to get checked out to make sure there was nothing else serious that was happening to me. Because at one point, my mom told me that, hey, maybe she's deaf. Like maybe she's losing her hearing. Maybe she's not hearing things. That's why she's like so closed in. And then they thought maybe I wasn't seeing properly. So every single thing that you can think of, I was put through. So then after the results were fine, I could hear, I could see, I could speak. Everything was great. And I remember going through like this, I actually remember the speaking exams where they'll lift the card and they'll just say, okay, what is this? Can you read this? Can you read this? Like it was just numerous of examinations, colors, numbers, etc. Everything was fine. Now they couldn't find what they could, like, what are we going to do? Like if all her tests were fine, like what else could you do really? So the school decided and they said, okay, let's put her in a special needs class. Now, back in the day, in the early 90s, like your special needs class was mixed with people with physical disabilities and also learning disabilities. But they kind of wanted to say, okay, let's see how she finishes off the year because this is pretty early. They're still developing. Kids will be fine, yada, yada, like they usually say. And about grade 3, that's where it kind of got serious, where I was able to communicate. I was able to read on my own, but I wasn't really grasping the information telling me because I'm a visual learner. So if you give me a book with a bunch of words, it's like, I'm not going to really grasp the information, not going to be able to really tell you what I just learned. And that's what I struggle to this day. Like if I'm reading anything really, even if it's a beautiful story that people say it's a beautiful story, I won't be able to grasp that information. I won't be able to paint that picture that's in my mind to really enjoy the book. I could read the words off the page, but if you're not really picturing that image, then how enjoyable is it? It's not just reading a book with words.
Right.
So with that also, they said, okay, now that they've gotten not a bunch, but I'm saying like probably 10 students with learning disabilities throughout the grades, I guess they started implementing a program. They said, okay, let them finish their work. Every homeroom teacher that has a student with ESL, because that's what they would call them, English as a second language, they would put them into a little room. So after you've given the assignment to your class, you send them downstairs to a room, and then there will be an assistant to help you. But really, this assistant, I didn't find any use of it because you've got so many other kids from different classes, different homerooms, different teachers have their different schedules throughout the day, that if I'm learning, let's say science, this other child beside me would be learning about English. And then the other one's learning about history. The other one's learning about geography. And it's just like, how can you teach somebody? And I remember there was only probably one teacher there for all these students. And then you've got the other half of the room where you've got physical disabilities, right? So it was kind of hard for even you to concentrate as it is because there's so much happening and everyone's asking questions and everyone's trying to move back and forth. You're better off being in your homeroom class where it's so quiet and then you can possibly have the teacher kind of stick with you for a bit while other students are working on their work.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like there wasn't enough resources. And then, of course, I would get retested again. And my life was basically basically through elementary was from grade school. So grade 1s to 8. I'm not sure how it is in the United States or other parts of the world, but in Canada, you kind of are in elementary school from junior kindergarten all the way till grade 8.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a middle school unless you're part of a different system. So I was brought up in a Catholic system, and that was their schooling. And so as I've gotten older, I realized that I'm not improving anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. You've got separate classes for these kids, but you're not teaching them anything. All you're doing is coming up, and I would have a question like, well, I don't understand what this paragraph is telling me because I have to summarize it, for example, or those book reports. I dreaded book reports because you were forced to read and you had to explain what happened in the story. What was the climax? What was the this? And what did you get out of it? What did this character happen? How did they develop? And I'm just like, for me, it was so difficult. You're making me read these pages that for me, it's like, I really don't know what happened to the boy that was growing up with his dad. I have no clue. I didn't know what happened to the dog that ran away because I wasn't really into reading. Like my brain couldn't focus. And there wasn't many programs. There was just, you were stuck in this classroom with everybody else from different classes, different ages, and you're kind of just sitting there and hoping that someone would kind of actually know what they're doing and kind of say, hey, okay, so fractions, algebra, did not like that. Okay, teach me an easier method of how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like there was nothing of that. It's like, okay, I know half and a half, but how do we get to the half and a half? If no one's telling me how to get to it, you're just going to tell me the answer. Or just, you know, it's just simple. You add that and at the bottom and that's it. That's how you get the answer. Well, no, okay, but tell me into detail, right? I have to be given detailed direction.
Right.
So it's like, how do we build a house? You're not going to tell me just do the foundation and then we're going to add the floors and then boom, we add the roof and then we cut out windows and doors. That's not how it works. No, you got to get you obviously got to lay out the plan, do some surveying, you know, got to do some measurements. Okay, where are we going to put the foundation? Where is the property line? Well, the way I'm saying it because I went to school for it, but you know, there's more details to it. So as I was growing up, it was really difficult. And I always thought that being in this class, it's like you're away from everybody. I could remember peers through the door where you're kind of like, oh, they're making fun of the kids that are in the classroom. It was one of those where, oh, the special ed kids, oh, you're so special, because all they can say is special, right? They really don't know the meaning of it. Oh, ESL kids because they're dumb. They're unintelligent and everything. You would hear that behind the doors when you're inside from the outside. And it was just like, you know, you would go back to your homeroom and you would start let's say your next subject, which could be mathematics. If I had science in the morning, I would mathematics after, go back to my homeroom and learn about whatever we're doing. And then I would be sent back downstairs again, wasting time getting down there. And it was a big school. It's just like, there was nothing really in structure. And I finally realized when I was in grade 8, it was like, well, these teachers, actually grade 7, because I ended up switching schools, which made a kind of a bit of a difference. But at grade 7, ending my school year in the city that, you know, I was there my whole entire life, teachers were not even teachers. There were volunteers, like lunch monitors, volunteers that they're like, okay, can we spare you like half an hour? And you can help in this classroom. They just do their work and that's it. No, that's not what we just do. We need someone to explain to us what I'm struggling with. You know, I just did not like it at all. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I felt useless. I felt helpless. Like, you know, my parents came here about 40 years ago. They immigrated and they were learning English themselves. Like I remember my mom, since I was a child and I was from daycare to daycare, she was learning English because she was given the opportunity when she immigrated. They were given free English classes and the childcare system is free for them because it's like, okay, this is somewhere I was born here, but they were still given these resources back in the day where you can learn English if you just immigrated. And she was learning English because she had a university Spanish background. She was a university teacher and she also did nursing as well back home. So I can imagine how she was just kind of like, when I'm here, oh, I can teach myself English, no problem. Go to the classes, take out the books, you'll learn the verbs, the grammar. And she's still good at it to this day. And I'm just like, holy crap. But I can't get to it. But at the time, I didn't have anybody to tell me, okay, well, can someone help me with my homework? I didn't have that. My dad was always working. My mom was learning English and she was also going to work at the same time. And I know it's crucial for a lot of kids where they need that parent to say, well, okay, let's do homework together. Let's do this. I know she taught me math and she tried to teach me math, but also she knew how much I struggled because nothing will be retainable. But she did her best. But with everything else, it was kind of just like, Mom was like, I don't remember the science class. I don't remember learning about cells. I was like, years ago, like, I'm not going to remember anything. And so it would be like, sorry, kid, like, I got nothing for you, but she'll try and buy CDs that will help kids kind of learn and develop certain areas of subject.
Yeah.
But it's nothing what you learn in school. So It was really hard. I'll be learning about other things, but it wasn't pertaining to my curriculum here. And I would learn about American history because the CD was American made, where from grades 3 to 6, you learn history, math, science, everything. But it was completely different. Here it was two different things, but I enjoyed it. It helped me learn because it was visual. There were cartoons helping me, let's locate this, let's talk about that. And I used to watch the Magic School Bus a lot. I did learn a lot, but wasn't part of my curriculum schedule. So it was difficult. And when we moved away from the city, I ended my grade 8 there, my last year. And I noticed that there were actually teachers that were specialized in ESL. There were teachers who were helping in special ed. But then again, it's like they weren't helping us. And there was very few of us and we were from different homerooms and we weren't given the help that we needed. They may have helped me a little bit, but I don't remember. Because once I got into high school, again, you get that label. It's like that label sticks with you until the end of, okay, you're an ESL student, you're going to have to take ESL English. And when I got into ESL English, I'm just like, but I could have sworn I just did English since I was in grade 1. Why am I going back 8 years to learn ESL English? So I had to change my courses. I talked to my counselor and it was like, oh, well, since you have ESL, well, there's not much you can do. You can do applied because here in Canada, it's like applied in university. So meaning if you take applied courses, you're going to college. If you're taking, unless you're a certain percentage in all your courses, then you can go to university. But if you're going to take university, it's the university level, way advanced, where you can go to university and apply to university. So that's how it works here. And I would just take all my applied classes. I used to take chances and go into university classes and kind of see how it is.
Yeah.
Because if I don't try it, how am I supposed to know?
Right.
So I hated the label once again. And it would be like it was the same thing all over again, where you were going into your different classes in high school and you were sent down to the ESL room, which is 2 floors down this time, not just one, but 2 floors down. And it was near the cafeteria, which is even worse because everyone likes to hang out there and people would just, oh, look, it's the special kids. Because there's always someone skipping in the hallways that will hang out there, someone in the cafeteria. It's either lunch, whatever it is, you're going to be stuck there. There was a noise from the outside, the inside. They mixed it up, which I didn't like. It was physical disabilities. And then there was people with learning disabilities. I'm just like, is this system ever going to change? I used to skip those classes. I was given a full 45 minutes to an hour, whatever it was, of just ESL. But for what? If you're not going to help me with my work, then there's no point.
Wow.
And I used to fight for it. And I used to tell my dad, I used to break down a lot. And it was just like, even my mom, I used to say, this is ridiculous. It's like, why am I wasting my time? I should just be in my homeroom and just ask a friend for help if they want to help me, or ask a teacher for help. And I remember one of my math teachers, he understood kind of the way the system worked and he disagreed with it. But you know how nice he was, to a point where he was just like, listen, I know you have troubles in math and you need this math. Because what you're going into in college, you need to take math. And I'm like, okay, but how can you help me? He's like, during your spares, come and see me. There's obviously room for you here in this classroom. My kids are pretty good. I have a bunch of university classes that I'm teaching. And you can come in. They usually do their work and that's it. I let them be. And then I can help you during that spare time. Oh. So I tried to, and he knew I was learning a lot. He knew I was trying so hard that it was just like at a point where I would retake the exam, my midterms, but it's like, okay, there's clearly something that you're not grasping, which is okay. We've done everything, but the fact that you showed effort, I'm just going to pass you.
Wow.
And for the majority of my classes, that's how it was, because they kind of knew like I could do something, but then I couldn't do the other thing. Once it got more advanced and after learning, my brain processing it for 3 months, the next month, we're just learning on a new different topic. And it's just, you're confusing me already. So throughout my elementary school years, I gravitated to sports, and I always tried to be better at sports. And it was a competition with myself with sports, because maybe sports can get me somewhere. And during high school, instead of gravitating to sports, it was working my part-time job because I had to, but also I looked into art and graphics, and also art too was a big deal in my elementary years. And I loved art and everything. But when I got into high school, I said, I'm not going to get into sports. This is too much competition, especially the area where I grew up in high school. And I was just like, okay, let me just gravitate to art. Art's going to be my venue. Take photography, take graphics, take woodshop. Like, let me see, because I've always, since I was a kid, my dad being in the construction industry, I've always gravitated to it. I had a passion for it. I like to see, when we used to go look for our house, I loved taking the pictures of the model homes, and I used to take them home, and I would get my sketch pad and kind of make modifications off of it. I used to just draw an existing part of the back of that model home picture that they give you in that brochure. And I used to do interior design. I used to kind of just, my mind was very creative. So that was kind of like my outlet to get away from it all. But during high school, it was just like, what do I do? What do I do in this life? I go to the counselor and I say, I want to become an architect. Well, you can't. Oh, really? I can't. Thanks. Great counselor. You know, what are you here for? And I just felt like everyone was just bringing me down. It's like, can't go to nursing because I'm not a fan of it. Can't see blood. Oh, no way. I cannot see someone cut open or someone in an emergency. I cannot. Like, that's not me.
Right.
I don't want to get into math and science because it's not for me. I can get into arts. I can't go into sports because I kind of dropped that completely and I can't do it. So it's like, what do you do? What do you really do? And then when I got into a full-time job, that's where I felt like my part-time job during high school, I felt like I was accepted, because you're in high school and it's like the worst 4 years of your life. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And going into a part-time job, I felt that acceptance, that like no one cares about you as in like your studies. They just care about you as a person and how well you work. And that's what that was my strong skill.
What was your part-time job at that time?
I was at a retail hardware store. It was a big box retailer. And I figured I wanted to start working because there's no way you're going to put me in summer school, because that's going to rip my hair out.
It's been more of the same probably that you're already suffering through.
Exactly. And I need to take a break. So I figured having a part-time job would be best. So I applied to one of the big box retailers. That was a hardware store where I lived. It was like probably 10-minute drive from my parents. And I started and I felt really accepted. I worked with people who were actually 4 years older than me. And it was, believe it or not, it was very masculine environment. But for some reason, I just blended right in. And it was very nice to walk into a job that you felt accepted, opposed to being out of school for 8 hours. And you felt like you were just going to fall apart, because you're just like, well, since I'm not good at anything, then what's the point? And there were so many times that I wanted to stop trying, but my mom kept telling me, she's like, you just have to do this. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but I don't know if it's like this in the US. There's 2 examinations they do. They call it EQAO testing. I don't know the abbreviation, the full thing of it, but basically kind of gives the province that I live in and as a country, as Canada, how students are doing, kind of an evaluation of if kids are developing at par, or if there's something we have to change to the school system. So I took it in grade 3. I passed that. I was apparently on par, but there's some things obviously you have to work on, which was math and science and English. But in grade 10, I failed it twice. So I was just like, okay, this is weird. And that's when I kind of got concerned. I got really anxious. I got really like stressed out. Like, I'm going to fail a grade. I'm going to fail a grade. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in the school for another year. Like, I can't be set back. And they were given a chance for us to redo it again. And what they gave me was which I wish they had this years ago, was a computer that will speak to you, dictation of the material that you did on that exam. So instead of being a paper copy of the exam, it was actually a computer copy. And they hired somebody, I guess the government does this, where they bring in every student that's using the computer, there would be an individual there beside them to help them kind of like, they're not going to give you the answer because it's a government test, but they would give you like a guidance. So if I wasn't understanding how to put this paragraph or list the commas and stuff, it's like she will try to read it to you, because I had a female and she would say, well, like I'm reading right in front of me. I'm going to just, as an example, she'll say, okay, beyond 6 seconds. Do you think it needs a comma or do you need a period? And then she'll continue on reading it. So it took longer for me to write the exam because we only have a certain amount of time before they start collecting it. But it really helped me kind of just like do the whole thing. And then after that, I ended up passing it just because I was given a computer and someone to assist me to help me through the whole process.
Wow. And so, but this was not until high school, it sounds like. So you've already had all these years of the special class or the resource class. You had these resources, but they really weren't helpful at all. So sounds like that way you were able to take the exam, that it didn't rely only on like reading comprehension. You had more of like an oral and visual interactions. It sounds like that finally was something that was helpful to comprehend and take the exams.
Yeah. So when I was in grade 11 and 12, which you have to really think about college submissions or university, it really kind of just like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Yeah. So one of the guidance counselors, because we ended up getting another one, maybe because there was two, one was busy then, because during that time of year, between grade 11 and 12, you're kind of like, okay, you got to make an appointment with the guidance counselor to kind of see if you're on the right track, yada, yada. So the other one that was available to me was like, okay, why don't you become an architectural technologist if you want to become a architect? And I'm like, okay, so what does that entitle? And she's like, well, you have all the courses that you require. You just need to do grade 12 physics because we don't offer a grade 11. So you can do it this year. Then you can add it in a co-op. And I liked the idea she was giving me. Yeah. And I did take the grade 12 physics, which I just passed it, to be honest, and just to get into the college. And I also took a co-op so I can actually reassure myself that I'm able to do the job. And when I went to my co-op placement, I learned so much because I realized that they kind of painted the picture saying like, whatever you do in school, they're not going to really care as long as you know how to do the work. Like it doesn't matter if you get a 4.0 GPA, they just care you know how to do the job. Yeah, it could be good, but also you're going to learn the ways they do it because everyone does it differently. So I like that experience. I graduated. And going into college was just like, oh my God, what am I going to expect? Like, it's going to be a whole new environment, which I already knew. It's going to be different people. They already knew I was an ESL student with a learning disability. So they did put me in ESL English. Now for college level ESL English, it was like, you just came to the country as on a student visa. And you are learning English for the first time. Oh my God. So when I went there for the first 2 weeks, I was just like, I'm not doing this. So I went back to guidance counselor for my program. And I said, can I drop this course and just go into regular English? Because then I have 3 years to do this program. And just because of one course, I don't want to be set back or put on another one. Because I used to take 8 courses per semester, which is so much for me. Wow. And I didn't want to cut corners, and I was still working my part-time job. And so she was really nice. She's like, sure. Like, they don't really care. They're just like, okay, yeah, you can do this. Yeah. Okay. This is your new English class. And that's it. So that's what happened. I enjoyed all my classes. I did enjoy, it was really hard. Of course, no one really tells you that. They just say you're going to make so much money becoming a architectural technologist. And I would never forget that day, the first Friday when I had my lecture class, like, you're going to make so much money. You guys can be contractors. You guys can do this. You guys can do that. All the job opportunities laying out for you at like the red carpet. Wow. And I'm thinking, okay. And the one thing he also mentioned, well, this is shocking. There are more women in this program than ever before. And I'm like, okay, cool. There's more women in construction. It's about freaking time because it's been a battle for the past how many years now? And The biggest challenge with college, it's the English, because we had to do theses and essays, and I'm not that writer. Math was another one. I actually failed to math twice. I had to pay twice. Like, it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And my math teacher, it all depends on the teacher, because I could learn mechanical, HVAC, because I had a great teacher. I could learn electrical because I had a great teacher. I can do plumbing, which was more difficult than electrical, but I could learn history of architecture because I had a great teacher. You give me an estimating class with a teacher who could not even speak English, I'm not going to learn. Right? If you're going to teach me English is just, for me, in my brain's already set that I'm not going to do well, which kind of sucks, because it's like you're prone to it already. Like, it's like, I'm going to take these vitamins, even though it takes like a couple months in our body to really make, something out of it and see the results. But if you're always like, oh, I'm sick, I need to take vitamin C, your body's prone to you to, okay, you need to take vitamin C because you're sick. Does it do anything? We don't know, right?
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of after a while.
Yes. And working in groups was a bit difficult, because when you're assigned groups, they don't care who you get. They don't know who you are. And it's like, you got to learn how to work together. Right. And I was able to do the work, but it's just the basic English and math. And it's funny because I could do my concrete class, which was calculating, but then I was working with materials, measuring these type of aggregates with these and doing the calculation to make sure my concrete was going to hold for the project that we were dealing with, which was an underground parking. It's a lot of weight to it. So I was able to do it because I had a good teacher. So then I realized having a good teacher who can detailedly explain things and paint that picture for you and use slides is what's going to help me learn.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And having these good teachers, it sounds like not just the teacher who sticks to one way to learn. And that's like, here, read this and write about this. It's literally like bringing in those other elements, like the kinesthetic, where you can actually touch things and measure things, or the visual, where you can look at slides and hear things and view. It sounds like the good teachers were able to think a little more openly and creatively about how they delivered and taught information.
Exactly. And that's when I realized, okay, well, having a good teacher is what's going to help me. Now, it was really hard. It was 8 courses per semester. And I felt like I was just going to give up. My grades weren't that great. I'm telling you, my grades weren't that great. I had the passing mark for all my classes was 60%. I would get a 60, between 60 or 65. My mom knew I was never going to be an A+ student since day one. All she knew that I was going to be good in art, in sports, phys ed, because I used to always come home with an A, which was like probably the first A y'all ever seen in my life. Geography, grade 9, believe it or not, I made it to the honor list, but it was just because I had a good teacher and I loved geography and I got an award for it. But then I, kind of told my mom, like, you're not going to see any more, because really geography, that teacher, I don't know if he's going to teach the next one, because you don't get geography in grade 10. You're getting history. So my mom knew how much I struggled so much and how much it hurt me, and how she knew, like, oh, you work so much. Yeah, because I love where I'm working, because I feel that acceptance. But when I'm at school, I don't get it. But when I was in college, I felt that acceptance, because no one really cared what your background was. They're just there to get the job done and out the door, because we're paying so many thousands of dollars just to get into a program to make something out of ourselves as a career. So for me, I was just like, okay, I felt so drained and emotionally drained, because after failing twice in math, you're just like, what do I do? Like, I can't continue on. Like, I'm hating this course. I'm hating this course. I'm hating it. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I would think every single possibility. I'm like, do I just drop out? Do I just do something else? But what am I going to do? Get into business and do more math? Like, what am I going to do? What am I good at? And I remember my mom's just like, you're kidding me, right? And my mom's tough love, because we come from that Latin background. And she's just like, are you kidding me? You're just going to give up? Like, she's like, are you dumb? And it's okay for her to say I'm dumb and stupid, because that's my mom. But she was just like, are you stupid? You have 1 semester left. Because when we started the program, believe it or not, we had 1,500 students. towards the end, we only had like 300. They were dropping like flies.
Wow.
No one could handle the program.
But you were still there.
So I'm like, and I was still there. And I'm just like, how am I going to do this? I don't know how to keep up. I feel like I was going to drop everything because my lecture professor, where we do our big assignments and projects that we're giving, that's like our free time. She's like, you haven't been here. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm working night shifts. Like if I don't work nights, if I don't work my job, how am I supposed to go to school, pay my car? I wasn't going to take the bus because it cost me more and take me longer to get home. And she's just like, well, you need to be here. And I'm like, well, I do show up. I don't show up at 8 o'clock. I'm going to show up at 9 o'clock because I said, I'm sorry. When I get home at 5 o'clock, I said, I take my little nap, I eat, I go to work from 10 o'clock all the way through 6 in the morning.
Wow.
And I'm still taking 40 hours. It was 44 hours a week of school.
This is in college,
That's
right?
a lot. This is college, architectural technologist. So whoever's listening who's got a kid who's considering it, you really got to consider it because it's like, it's either you work or you just focus on that school.
Wow.
But with my grades, I couldn't become an architect. So that's another 10 years of my life added onto it.
Wow.
And I felt like it was, why am I going to spend all that money knowing that I struggled so much in college?
Absolutely.
So then my mom kind of kicked me in the behind and said, well, you need to stop this mentality because she says, you need to think where we came from. She's like, when I came here, I didn't know English. It's courses, it's watching Sesame Street, it's watching TV with you, The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, me going to these classes. And she's like, I'm older than you. There shouldn't be an excuse. Yeah, you were born here, but we didn't teach you English. We taught you Spanish, but you were taught English when you got into school, when you got into daycare, when you got into elementary. Like that's where you learned the language. But she kind of was just making it seem like, why are you going to fail? You've already overcome every single obstacle, which was completing elementary, completing high school. Everyone always told you couldn't do it, but why are we putting you in this mindset? You can do it. Just believe in yourself. And every time I would come home, I remember from day one, it's like, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You're just going to do it. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to do it. It's just repetitive and repetitiveness, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And I remember getting into arguments where it's just like, well, you don't understand. Like, how do you build a building and support everything and then just do this, the math and everything? And it's just like, why do we need the math? Don't they put it into the system and tell you how much weight you need to support certain beams and everything? Like I would freak out. And my mom was just like, okay, but you just need to get this piece of paper. Why are you so angry about it? Like just get the passing mark. And I'm like, but I'm not going to get the passing mark because I don't feel like I can. And she's like, but you need to do it. If you don't pass this obstacle, I don't care what you do. She's like, I don't care what you do after. I don't care if you're just going to work in retail for the rest of your life. I don't care if you're going to work in a factory. I don't care if you get a big promotion or whatever it is. If you're not going to do architecture, as long as you have that piece of paper to fall back, that's all you need.
Yeah. Yeah. She really pushed you forward and kept you, kept you when the times, because I know you, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that there were, through all those struggles, you frequently felt like you wanted to give up, especially when people were telling you that you couldn't do it. And it sounds like your mom was a good support in that way, even if it was just like, you got to get back out there and you got to finish you've done, and reminding you like everything that you had overcome along the way and that you could continue to do that was important.
Yeah. And it was a lot of tough love. But then once I finished it, now getting into the workplace, that's a whole new different story because you're like, well, do you disclose that you have a learning disability? Do you disclose it to you or not? Because every single job I've had, there's some of them, they've been good and some of them that they were horrible. But then I used to be a manager. I didn't think I was going to become a manager. And I was managing in retail, clothing store and a hardware store and a supply store. And it was just like, oh, I didn't think it. And then I managed a gym with people. And I used my past as a way when I were to train and onboard and develop my team. I used to always talk to them in a way where, okay, so this is how it works. I'm going to give you the tools that you need. I'm going to try to support you as much as you can, even though this is not your future. How can I help you to develop the skills that you need for your future job, your future career, for your school, whatever it is? I used to take what I've learned in the past to kind of change my training style and onboarding in a different way so people can understand. I wanted to change things slowly, which I have, and I was given the opportunity, no problem. But also, I didn't want to be in retail for the rest of my life either, because it's emotionally draining as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up going into personal training. I went back to school. Who would have thought I was going to go back to school? And I took an online course with personal training and nutrition. I took it through Miami-Dade College because I liked their intensive program. I was able to learn. I did take one in here in Canada, but the 3-day thing does not work. You can't tell me you can become a trainer in 3 days and tell me that you're going to have a client with osteoporosis or whatever it is, and you're going to help them.
Yeah.
No. So I wanted extensive training. So I took my money and put it in there, and I did it. I actually got literally, I think it was a 4.0 GPA for my whole entire course. And I was surprised because, something that you love, you will literally love it. You will literally take whatever it takes to put it out there and just to be good at it. And once I did that, I did it for a couple of years, had my own little small business, and I used to train clients at home. And then once I got emotionally drained by everything because of the schedule that I had, it was intense. I always worked 2 to 3 jobs all the time. And finally, I decided to do photography, and I self-taught myself photography, and I have a passion for that. And then just recently, 3 years ago, I did work for a real estate agent that did not work out because he just didn't know how to teach people. Like you want to grow your business, learn how to teach people. And I would always get upset, and I always get like, Mom, I don't know what to do. I'm always like going through job to job. Like, what am I going to do? And my mom's just like, well, if you don't like it, just leave. Just leave. Like, what are you going to do? If this guy's not going to sit down with you and say, hey, I need to teach you how to do it, then what's the point? That's ruining his business, not yours. It's literally his fault if you're not going to teach someone how to onboard properly, how to actually read through the contracts and fill it out.
Yeah.
And even though I disclosed that I had a learning disability, they were trying to run away from it. But knowing I have rights as a worker, being in Canada and as a disability, well, guess what? You're going to screw yourself, which I managed to, do extra things. But other than that, like I said, you know what? This is a learning experience.
Yeah.
Just recently after that, when I left that position, I ended up thinking, you know what? Let me just go back to construction. Let me just go back to it. After that real estate job, I applied to the company that I applied for when I finished college, and I got the job. It was a hard company to get into. It's really well known here in Canada and in the construction industry. And I finally did it. And I was just like, holy crap, I made it. I made it. I'm not doing what I'm doing as an architectural technologist, which is fine. But the fact that my foot's in the door again, I felt so rewarded. I felt so great. And I did disclose. And I actually just disclosed. And I said, listen, even though I may have a learning disability, I can still create a spreadsheet. I can still create invoices. I can do whatever it takes because I have that creative side of me. I can still read drawings. I can do this. I can do that. Like it's me trying to build that confidence, because after so many years in retail management, you learn how to build that confidence, right? Because you led a team, and now you're kind of like used to hire people. I used to fire people, and now it's reversed. You kind of know how it works at this point. So having that confidence really helped me. And when they called me a couple months later, I was just like, oh crap. So I did get the job. Wow. And once I stepped into it, I was looking into my career because I'm like, I don't think I can be a desk person. I'm more of the field. So just recently, I just completed my part 1 of health and safety, which I didn't expect that I was going to do it. And I was like really nervous because I'm like, I feel like I'm giving a second chance through this work. It's given me the opportunity to do something and kind of change things, and also kind of prove that us women here are getting into construction, but we're here because we like it. We want to make change. And when I completed my health and safety part 1, which I still got to do part 2 this year of 2020, I kind of felt like accomplished, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of like, I made it. I've had 3 certificates underneath my belt, plus I've got this one coming up, which is going to be my other certificate. Now I'm thinking maybe I should do my master's in health and safety, but that's in the future. I shouldn't get ahead of myself yet. I need to finish part 2, which is like the written component of file incident reports and stuff like that. And that's where I kind of was like, I did it. I finally accepted the fact just recently that I have this learning disability. It's a gift. It's a gift that took me through a hell of a roller coaster ride. It took me through an emotional roller coaster It took me through different opportunities of work. It made me grow. It made me break down the barriers of who I am as a person and kind of accepting it for what it is. Because even though it took a hell of a time to get to where I need to be, it's more of an acceptance of like, I did it. And I really did it. And I know my mom, my dad were always there for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting emotional because it's like, if you see other kids who are going through this, I feel like I have a sense of like, I need to help them. Mm-hmm. Because it's not easy. And also, if the parents are not there to help them, it's like, what are they going to do? Because I've gone through so much. And if it wasn't for my parents, it's like, what would I have done? I could have been like, I don't know, could have been doing something that I really hate. And now that I'm doing something that I love, obviously you're still, trying to do the best you can, be the best you can be, and have a future for yourself because you have that push, you have that support system. So I kind of feel like I have to share my story because we're just people, we're human. We make mistakes, we take on challenges, we take on risks, we do it all just to see what works for us. And for someone like me and for any other person out there who has learning disability, it's like, we can do it too. It's just at a different pace, at a different way. We can still do it. You want to become a nurse, be a nurse. It's going to be hard. If you want to become an architect, be an architect. If you want to be a lawyer, be a lawyer. If you want to become an actress, an actor, whatever you could do, you can be whatever you want. Mm-hmm. It's just, there's going to be always people that's always going to bring you down. People are going to always bully you, make fun of you, etc. But you kind of have to let your differences aside and have that support system. And my friends are super supportive. Like, they know the condition that I had and everything. And they just didn't care. They just liked me for the person, for who I am. And then as you get older, you start to grow, you start to mature and everything. So I felt like I've done it all. And I'm just like, okay, now I need to go out there and share it with everybody else because you can help so many people, right? Just what I've just accomplished, being in a company that you always dreamt of being in, you're finally there. And, who would have thought? It's like, what if I didn't do this? What if I didn't do that? What if I didn't do this? It's like when you meet that significant other, right? I'm married now. And it's like, what happens if I didn't do that? Would I have met him? Probably not. I would have been somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And things happen for a reason. My parents always tell me things happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason. You're the one that takes your life. But if you want to take those risks, take those challenges, do it. Everything's going to be okay.
Wow. That is just so amazing. And yeah, Angelica, I really thank you for sharing your journey because we talk a lot, about diversity and inclusion. And a lot of times the phrase like representation matters comes up a lot. It's like you have to see it to become it. And I think that the fact that you are willing to share your story and to inspire other people with learning disabilities to show them this example of you had a hard time, you had to struggle, but you found what you needed to build those careers and have those experiences and find what you're passionate about and what helped you to succeed. You were able to do it. Like, fine, maybe the one traditional track of school that is prescribed to everybody wasn't it, but you found it through work, which is amazing that you were able to thrive through your work and through those great teachers that you had for some of those topics, and that you continued on. And even those times that you felt like you wanted to give up, you didn't. And that's the important part. I think, a lot of us can feel like we want to give up, but it's just important that you just keep going. And it's wonderful that you had that support system. But you're also right. A lot of kids may not have supportive parents, or maybe their parents are supportive, but they literally are at a loss and have no idea what to do. How confusing that must be when the school and people are telling you, like, listen, I don't know what's going on. But congratulations on getting a job that you love at a great company and doing all of the things like starting your own business and pursuing all these different areas. I think it's really wonderful. That's something that a lot of people dream of. And some people they don't get there, or it takes them a very long time to get there. Yeah. I think that's a great example. So tell me more about how you share your story and how you help support people with learning disabilities and inspire them to achieve their goals. I assume your podcast might be part of that.
Yeah. So when I was trying to go through my thoughts and kind of like, okay, how do I do this? Like, because I want to write a book. That's something in the future that I'm aiming towards. I want to just speak around and be part of the organizations and stuff and really help parents and even help students or even adults, because us adults, we go through it. So when I decided to do the podcast, I said, well, I'm shy. I don't spark up a conversation very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, maybe a podcast will be great. I listened to podcasts. I see the meaning behind it. And I decided to kind of just like, okay, let's start the podcast. Let's just do it and see how it goes. So as I published episodes and I wanted to have guests on. So when you're starting out with a podcast, a lot of people don't know, it kind of takes a while to get off the ground. If you're not that A-star lister, it's like, it's really difficult for anybody. But I kind of just wanted to try it because I'm not putting in any money into it. And I was just like, okay, let me just give it a shot. I talked about my experience on learning disabilities, and then I was trying to find groups that I could share my experience. And I found the dyslexia app, which is based out of I think Australia or UK. And I don't know how they approached me, but they asked if I wanted to join this group that they're trying. It's a network of people like students, teachers and counselors and anybody involved with dyslexia or learning disability. And I got into the group. I kind of just, shared my story through that, got to help a bit of people there, and a couple of people were listening to it. And I did like a kind of like a 4-part series because I go into detail with it and what I struggled and things that were given to me and stuff. And from then on, I kind of go into the Instagram pages and kind of see who's doing what. And you got to find the people to share this with. And I'm very open about it now. So it's just made it a lot easier for me to really talk about it on the podcast. And then when I go through guests, it's like, oh, okay, someone has a learning disability. And I found like 3 of them. And I interview them and we talk about it because everyone goes through different journey. Everyone goes through different struggle. Like one of them is now a VP of an insurance company in the United States. And then there's another one in Nigeria who actually struggled a lot because back in the day, in her time, it was just people just automatically kind of close you out. Like you have no right to even talk about it. It's like, no, your child needs to be removed, right? So her dad really helped her out to kind of stick by her studies because where else is she going to do? And now she's one of the ambassadors of Nigeria for the dyslexia community in her country. And she's got a radio show that she interviews guests and creates awareness, and she does a lot of stuff. And I met somebody a couple of weeks ago who had a mild autism Asperger's syndrome. And he was telling me his story, in which I was just like, he works in television and he's in the behind the scenes, and his mom was very supportive, and we kind of had the same story. And I use the podcast as a way to help people to obviously share their passions, their craft, and what they're advocating for. I'm for it because I learn from those people. I learn different words through these people. I make new friends and I network, and I'm one of those people that love to help because my dad's he has a huge heart. He likes to help people. So that's where the helping comes into me. Like I would do whatever it takes just to help my friends with their businesses. I figured maybe the podcast is what's going to help me branch out and not to be too shy and just get out there. And when I started the podcast after 6 months, I said, wow, the ball's going, and I'm getting these guests and I'm finding these people that are different and, different walks of life who've gone through different struggles. Even if you're just a regular person, when I mean regular person, it's just like, you don't have a learning disability. It's like, okay, so they've gone through triumphs and they've gone through challenges and they've taken on risks with businesses, and now they're here and they just want to share because that's a journey. That's a story. And that's what I like to hear. So with the podcast, I try to make it a little bit of everything because that's what it is, a little bit of everything. And besides recapping reality TV and having a great time with co-hosts, but I also like to have guests who like to talk about whatever they've got on their mind and what they want to share. And with the podcast, I'm able to connect with people, and they learn my story through my website with my short bio. But also they're just like, oh, I can connect somebody with you. You guys can probably perfectly mesh and stuff. And I've been getting out into the community. I reached out to my local, I think it's the National Dyslexia Community of Canada, to kind of see what I can do as a role and volunteer. And I've reached out to my local one. I'm there as a standby if they need. They call themselves champion voices. If they need someone to speak at a certain event or at a school, I can make myself available and talk out there. But things have been pretty slow and stuff. And with the strike that teachers had recently, everything got canceled for the month of Dyslexia Month awareness. So, I'm trying to find other ways to do it, because I want to start writing the book and kind of do it like a self-help, share my story into detail, but also self-help. Like, how could the parent be in this situation? How could they help the child? Like words of encouragement or something, or learn how to use cue cards or sticky notes to help them remember certain things.
Oh, wow.
So
that'd be great.
Yeah. And that's when I'm trying to kind of come up with a system, because when I took personal training, if it wasn't for the medical, I think when you become a medical student, you have to buy this box of cue cards or parts of the body. They have it listed in color format. I used to buy those to help me teach me. Yeah, it was great $200 that I spent. But these cards really helped me, identify what muscle groups I'm looking at, what's part of the brain, even though I didn't really need to know the part of the brain, but I could learn about the part of the brain, different colors. I used to buy a muscles coloring book, and you choose the bigger muscles in one color, and that's going to help me tell me what bones are in here. Because like when you're a personal trainer, when people ask, okay, so what's this? They'll point to the shoulder where your heart is. It's like, oh, it's the pectoral. Oh, but then they'll start, okay, what's this thing, the big part of my leg above the knee. And you're kind of like, oh, it's your quads. And, you need to kind of be on it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I was like, if not, they're not going to buy anything off of you, or they don't want any packages from you, or they kind of self-doubt, like, okay, you don't know what the muscles of your body are. And the exam that I took for that was really intense. It was just like, well, here's a blank body, list the muscle groups.
Wow.
You're kind of like, oh my gosh, if it wasn't for that little card thing, I would never have known where these muscles are, because I wanted to learn more about them in the veins. Because sometimes, their nervous system that we have, and it interconnects to certain things, and you just want to look smart. You want to sound like you know it. When I got that information, I said, okay, I want to implement that in the book so people can actually look for things like that. My mom used to use cue cards for mathematics. She actually used to write the mathematical equations from 1 to 8. So when I would wake up, it would be right in front of my eyes. Every time we would go to sleep, she would review it. So she would cover it up and say, okay, what is 3 times 3? What is 3 times 9? What is 9 times 2? What is this? And every night we would do it. And every morning I would see it in front of my face, which was one way she thought it could help me. And it did a little bit. But when it got to the harder numbers, of course, it was a lot difficult, and she was already running out of room. So she actually used that technique, and I used Post-it notes and stuff. So I'm trying to find a system that, yeah, I can share my story, but hey, FYI, as a parent, if your kid's going through this, try to understand them, open their ears, give them a hug or something. Like, I want to provide something for the parent and for the child. So it kind of goes hand in hand, because with my experience with my parents, it's like my mom was the one that was helping me the most. So, okay, you got to work together. It's like a team effort. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that in the book.
Wow. That's incredible. I work in employee training. So a lot of the techniques that you talk about are things that it's really a trainer's mindset about, how do you get people to really learn and retain knowledge? Because even when you're an adult and you're not in school anymore, you still need to learn things on the job. And a lot of times, adults learn differently, and you really need those different ways to engage people. It's not just like reading about things, but it's trying out new equipment or just visually picturing where things are positioned. It's like different types of techniques. So I think that the tools that you're putting together would absolutely be helpful to kids and even young adults with learning disabilities. But I think all those techniques, they're really helpful for everyone. Like, they're just good learning techniques, like those really good teachers were using that you had in your childhood. Oh, I think that's great.
Yeah. And I also want to do part of like the workforce, because I feel like people need to be educated. When you've got a perfectionist as a leader and you've got myself, we don't really mesh together because the perfectionist wants everything done in one shot. Me, it takes probably 2 tries to get it done right. So I feel like the perfectionist needs to kind of understand that people really make mistakes, because I find most perfectionists that I worked with, if you didn't cut with the scissors straight, they don't like that. If you told them once how to do it and then you kind of forgot about it, it's like, no, I asked you a specific way, but it doesn't stay in my brain. Right. So it's like a perfectionist and myself, we don't really blend together. And it's been difficult sometimes, because in my past, it's like, how do I adjust myself? But I can't adjust myself. How am I supposed to adjust myself? If I adjust myself, I can't get any better. I'm just going to get worse, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But a perfectionist who's already up there can make small adjustments to accept the fact that we need to find a way to make this work. So with the workplace, sometimes it's a big struggle for most of us, because really it's like, I need this paper done by 3:00. Okay, you're giving me half an hour. It takes me to do an average paper an hour and a half or 2, or this assignment or this report, whatever it is. It's a constant thing where when I want to put it in a book, it's like, how do we get the perfectionists to kind of work together with anybody, really?
Yeah. Perfectionism is kind of going out of vogue, at least in business. It used to be more about like, you have to do things exactly the specific way that I tell you. More, that's sort of an old management style. But at least here in the States, I'm seeing as a manager, you're a guide. Like there are certain targets you have to hit, but you have some ability to let people find their own way to hit those targets, because, you know, otherwise, why do you hire people? Like they need to bring their talents and what they know and what they can do to you. And it's not all about you as the perfectionist manager. So hopefully that's starting to ease a little bit.
Yeah, because there's some, like I've had experiences where it's like, especially some of these professionals who've been apparently in the industry for so long. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to teach you how to do this. Okay, cool. Well, this is what I do. This is my old draft. This is like a sample copy. You just got to follow it. Or I've gone once, like a 3-inch binder of training. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? That's it. You want me to read this binder? Well, guess what? Me reading it ain't going to help anything. I need a visual. I need someone to say, okay, so this is the sheet that we fill out. Believe it or not, this is how I need to be taught. This is where we need to put the full address as per government, not short form. It has to be the full address to be valid on this piece of paper. You need to write the numbers in full, not in short form or an abbreviation, nothing. Like it has to be full. This is where we fill out what the standards are, where you can copy and paste in this folder. Like, and that's how I taught my teams. I used to run a co-op program at a gym that I was working at, and I used to do the same thing. These kids were from private school. They were high up there, but then I had kids who were from the YMCA, who came from a different organization of like, I forgot what it was. I think it was damaged backgrounds or families. I forgot what the word was. It was years ago. Yeah. So you got private school kids, you know, they think they're better. They were grade 9 thinking they were in grade 12. And then I had students from grade 12 trying to figure out what they want to do in life. And the one group I got along with was the one that were in grade 12 trying to figure out what to do in life. Yeah. And that grade 9 private school kids, I said, I can't. I'm glad they were there for a shorter term, but they just thought they were entitled to everything. Yeah. They don't know what it means to struggle. Meanwhile, these poor kids that I had in grade 12, they were just like, they came from troubled families. And it's just like, oh my gosh. I kept telling them like, it sucks what you're going through. It really does for them as troubled families, and they struggled through school and everything because of the environment that they were in. But it was just like my encouragement to them, just stay focused. They just keep doing it. You guys can do it. And that was my method. It was just kind of like, how do I want to be taught the way I taught others?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Wow. Well, you're doing a lot of really great work with the outreach that you're doing to, for people with learning disabilities, to inspire them and encourage them to achieve their goals, as well as just what you're doing in your day-to-day work, anytime that you're managing or training other people. I think all of those hard and difficult lessons that you learned from the resources that you didn't have and understanding what helped you, I think is now helping everyone regardless of their background. So I think that's really incredible. Angelica, thank you so much for sharing your story on my show. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your podcast or the speaking that you do? What's the best way for them to find you?
So you can find me at everythingwithange.com. So www.everythingwithange.com. You can find me on LinkedIn under Angelica Vallecillo. You can also head over to my Instagram, which is a little bit of everything with me. That's the podcast. And also Facebook at a little bit of everything with me.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'll put links to those in the show notes so that people can get easy access to those links too. Very good. Thanks so much, Angelica, for sharing your story and being a guest on my show. I was really encouraged and inspired to hear your story, and good luck with all your work and good luck with your book. Absolutely. I will follow you to learn more news about that.
Thank you so much. And it's been an honor. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Beyond 6 Seconds. Please help us spread the word about this podcast. Share it with a friend. Give us a shout out on your social media or write a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. You can find all of our episodes on our website and sign up for our free newsletter at www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.